Welcome back to Franchise Vibes, and the vibes we're on today is money. And we're talking with Ali Kraus. Thank you for joining us today. So, welcome, Ali, and please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey to becoming the VP of Marketing for Benetrends.
Hello, TAMIKA. I'm so thankful to be here today. I record a lot of podcasts, but not a whole lot of YouTube videos. So it's fun to be here. And I've got to be honest, I actually have COVID right now. So I sound a little nasally, but I feel good. And I think it's ridiculous that this is still a thing. When I saw those two lines, I just
Tell me
couldn't.
about it.
But how amazing is it that working from home, we are still able to keep an interview on the books when I'm sick and I don't have to be in an office. So
You know what? You're so right. Because last week we actually rescheduled this because I had a medical thing that I had to do. And I'm just like, and the funny thing is, I had one recording that I had to do where I just had to just kind of keep a straight face and like, okay, I can get through this and do it. And it came out fine. And I'm like, okay, everything else got to be rescheduled. So so you're right about that. It does kind of allow you to still kind of skate through a little bit, right?
no, I'm thankful that we didn't have to reschedule because I'm happy to do this and I'm excited to do a video interview with you. I was lucky enough to meet you at the SMB Summit back in November. So that was really fun. We had a booth there. We were doing videos with our Brand J team and we did one with you. So now I
Yes.
get to see your channel, which is fun. I have an interesting background. I went to college. I graduated in 2011 with a special education degree. So I actually was a teacher for 7 years before switching into the marketing world, which was kind of a whirlwind that I was a late career changer after spending 7 years in the special education field, but taught me a lot about dealing with people like parents and children now that I have my own toddler, and kind of everything in between from being organized to reporting and etc. So I moved into the marketing world. I started with a franchisor. I moved into a little bit of magazine advertising for a while with Entrepreneur Magazine. And now I've been at Benetrends for almost 2 years and I'm leading the marketing team here. And I am just having so much fun. I'm learning so much. The financial side of the industry was something that I wanted to personally improve on. So becoming an employee at Benetrends was a huge opportunity for me, even personally, to be able to learn more about this side of the industry. So I'm excited that I can be here and share what I've even learned and gathered about business funding in my first 2 years at this company. So it's been a whirlwind and things have moved fast, but I'm really grateful for the women in business that have impacted my career so far. And I'm always excited for the future because of how quickly things move and change, and it keeps you entertained.
Well, tell us just I guess an overview of Benetrends and their mission in small business and franchise funding space.
Benetrends has actually been around for about 42 years now. Started in the 80s by our founder, Len Fisher, who was an ERISA attorney. And Len actually created what we call the Rainmaker Plan here, commonly known as ROBS, which is
Mm.
rollover startups. So he actually works directly with the IRS to jumpstart that program, which is really cool that we get to say we are the architects of it. So um,
Wow.
we are the catalyst of business funding in the franchise industry. We fund businesses that are not franchised as well, but a majority of what we do, probably 90% of the businesses we fund are franchised businesses. So we historically have really talked about ROBs and rollovers and what we call internally our Rainmaker Plan. But a little bit more recently, about a year and a half ago now, we acquired a very large SBA company called DCV Franchise Group, which was Reg Bird's company out of California, and they now make up our SBA team. So Benetrends, while we've been around a really long time and we used to specialize in ROBs, now we do every sort of business funding you can imagine, from ROBS plans to SBA lending to quick start unsecured funds to business plan writing and even setting up your corporations and your LLCs to get your businesses.
Mm.
So Lots of different services internally here. We have a very large team spread out all across the US. So, very thankful to have that heavy set of hands in what we do so that we can take on every type of business, whether you're a franchisor funding over 100 deals a year, or you're a brand new emerging brand and you're getting ready to sell your first franchise. Benetrends can do it all. We can take in any sort of funding that there is. And we also work very close with brokers and consultants like yourself, Tamika, to make sure that you have a trusted partner in funding so that your clients can get that deal across the finish line.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I love the fact that I do partners with businesses such as yours. And the one main thing that I really like was the ROBS. I think it's a great option for those that do have I mean, how many of us have 401ks that that we had from a prior job that we just kind of leave there. And to know that there's an option to use that towards funding. But what I didn't know is that you guys kind of started that. That's something that's actually news to me that you guys were, the ones that kind of set that forth for any other business partners to be able to even utilize that. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, we're very proud of that history. So we try to kind of share that as just something that we tote around with excitement. And I always love sharing information about Rob's too, because people tend to think that it's not even legal. We're tax
Yeah, so that unknown and the tax thing and stuff. And I'm like, it's actually not the same as just taking the money out. You're right about that.
We describe it in 4 steps. So if anyone's interested in how that works, we describe it in 4 steps. So the first step for setting up a ROBS plan is to set up that C corporation, right? So you establish a new corporation using the proper legal structure, which we do here at Benetrends, to support that company's qualified retirement plan. Step 2 is to design a new qualified retirement plan. So to avoid early withdrawal penalties and preserve that tax deferred status, a new retirement plan is actually created, which you'll move the existing funds into. And so we'll customize that plan, taking into account your business records. And then number 3 is to actually transfer the retirement funds from that old plan into the new plan. And number 4, you actually use your retirement plan fund to fund your business. And one of the fantastic things we do here too is we can actually tailor your funding so that if you need cash down or that liquidity available for an SBA loan, for example, and maybe that's your initial franchise fee, we can actually do that as a ROBS transfer and then do the rest of your business as an SBA loan. So that's another really fantastic part about having multiple teams here at Benetrends is that we can really tailor that funding option for your business for the way it works for you and your family's needs.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I really appreciate the breakdown because when I discuss it with my clients, I don't go into heavy detail when it comes to the financing. I say everything on a high level, and then I partner to who it is that we partner with in finance, and then have them go ahead and take that conversation forward. Tell me a little bit about how you assist with funding and why it would be better to go to a company such as yours as opposed to going to their local bank.
I think this is a perfect segue into this question based exactly on what you just said, what we were talking about, right? If it's your job as a consultant to get your client funded, you don't need to be the expert because you work with funding partners, whether it's Benetrends or any of our competitors. It's a better option to go that way because we like to call ourselves your in-house funding department. So whether you're a consultant or a broker or you're a very large franchisor, you don't need to have an in-house specialist when you have somebody like Benetrends to partner with. You can give that high-level overview and then transfer your client or transfer that prospective franchisee over to your partners at Benetrends. It's a hand-holding process. It needs a deep explanation. We have a 25-page innovative funding guide that explains every funding option down to the very minute detail that someone like yourself, Tamika, or a franchisor doesn't need to take the time to explain to a client. Give it to them high level, pass it over to the partner, and allow us to be your in-house financing department that can really hold that client's hand and walk them through the process, understand the financials that they have available to them and the collateral they need for something like an SBA loan to understand and support that client through their journey of funding. So that's why it's better to use somebody like Benetrends and have that partner to not only be able to break down each funding option and explain it on a deeper level and work with the client to understand what makes most sense for them, but you're not going to get that by walking into your local Bank of America and saying, hey, can I have $1 million loan for this pet franchise that I'd like to open, right? So you need someone like a funding partner who has the experience, the validation, the understanding of different financing options that can really tailor it to your needs for you and your family.
So over the years, how have you seen the methods of funding small businesses evolve? And what notable changes have you observed?
So I don't think funding has necessarily evolved as much as the industries have evolved. I think COVID presented a whole new line of franchises that did better because of it. And you
Okay.
had people in their homes all the time. So I'm sure you've talked about this and heard this before, Tamika, but a lot of the home service brands ended up booming. And so what
Mhm.
we saw at Benetrends was an increased number of wheels on the ground concepts, as we like to call them. So any of those fleet style franchises, so those home concepts that are in a truck or a car or a van, or even the large trailers needed.
Mhm.
People weren't moving in the brick and mortar direction as much as they were these wheels on the ground concepts. So one of the things we did here was we really created a program that we call our fleet program. It's a non-SBA alternative. And we love working on the fleet program because it actually is a lending option that covers everything in the vehicle, including the wrap and the tools needed on the inside. So that's not something that you're, again, as easily going to be able to get by walking down the street and going to your bank for a loan. They're not going to
Mhm.
cover things like your tools or the wrap of the vehicle. So what we do is we do a lease to own lending option here where the package includes everything. So we love doing fleet deals. It definitely has been something we've seen evolve coming out of the pandemic, and it hasn't slowed down. So having that unique option for funding an actual vehicle franchise or a territory-based franchise is something that we love doing here, and we haven't seen that slow down since it spiked from the pandemic.
Well, funding is a complex subject, or it can be, right? What initiatives, in your opinion, can you help educate entrepreneurs on various funding options available to them?
One of the things when I came to Benetrends that surprised me as a consumer, because I'm someone that in my future I do want to own a franchise. I've been on the franchisor side, I've been on the supplier side for many years now, and I really want to take that step at some point personally and move into the franchisee world. And one of the things that I found really fascinating that people just don't seem to be as educated on is getting pre-qualified for a franchise that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think about it as buying a house because I bought a house and I moved in on February 29th of 2020, which is just about 2 weeks before we know what happened. And
Yeah.
you have to get pre-qualified for a loan, right? So we don't maybe shop for houses that often in our life. We don't maybe shop for cars that often in our lifetime. Same goes for shopping for businesses. Those aren't common occurrences. So I think one of the things that Benetrends tries to educate consumers on is the importance of actually getting pre-qualified and working with a funding partner before you even start looking for businesses. The same as I needed to know how much I could qualify for by my lending bank to buy my house. I didn't go shopping for $2 million houses because that's not what I was pre-qualified for. I
Right.
was, but that sets everyone up for disappointment and failure, right? Because if I find that $2 million house that I can't afford, I'm disappointed, my family's disappointed, my lenders are tired of working with me, my realtor's a little irritated, and the list goes on. The same goes for business funding and franchising. So often I feel like consumers or people that want to get out of their cube space and they find this dream franchise that
Mhm.
maybe multi-millions of dollars going through the process, working with the sales team, going through discovery day, just to be connected with Benetrends for us to maybe say, you don't have the funds necessary to buy this franchise. And then everyone's disappointed. That franchisor has taken hours out of their sales team's time and their payroll to work with this prospect that just doesn't have the capital.
Mhm.
So I think instead of having all of these letdowns and these people who have put so much time and effort into grooming this potential franchisee or this potential business owner, What's more important is that you actually look at your finances with an expert, talk about your finances, and figure out what that range is that you can afford to either borrow or to roll over in a Rob's plan to get that business set up. So it's always, again, just something we want to educate on, and we want to tell our broker partners, our consultant partners, and our franchisors that message as well. So what they can start doing is putting that into their customer journey much earlier. When is your sales team bringing up the financing um, portion of that sales process, and when are you bringing in your financial partner to start assessing what funds are available to make sure that that franchise is actually something that's attainable for this franchisee?
Yeah, thank you for that, because I actually, there's a couple things there. So there's a lot of similarities in real estate, and I use that a lot. And also, I feel like it also aligns with me trying to understand a little bit more and trying to get them prepared, because I think when people come in, it's franchising. I feel like it's one of those things that is very unknown, and those who think they know kind of don't at times. And um they do not understand the importance of these same preparations, and just making sure how important capital really is. And it would depend on the type of business that you end up wanting to invest in. So being prepared, really having those candid conversations, really looking deeply into your finances, and whether or not this is something that's going to be able to make sense for you financially as well, is incredibly important. So I do appreciate that bit of information as well. But so as we wrap up, what would you say for entrepreneurs starting their journey? What advice would you give them when it comes to securing funding for their businesses? Is there anything else that you would add to that?
I think when you're just starting your journey, there's a lot of resources out there that you should go to. First of all, if you're somebody looking to get out of your corporate world and start a business, one of the best things you can do is get a business broker, get a franchise broker, and
Mhm.
it's free to you, which I'm not even a consultant, and I love saying that because if I was going to search for a franchise, I would sure want a business broker or a franchise consultant to be there to support me, because these franchise consultant networks are huge. They know the brands, they know the industry, they have the experience. And I think so often people go into franchising thinking, well, franchising is a restaurant, right? And you don't realize that there's 4,000 brands. I am that dork that drives down the street and goes, that's a franchise, that's a franchise, that's a franchise to my husband all the time. And he's like, oh my God, I get it. And so you don't realize that you can buy the coin laundry machine with a trusted system, or the pet care grooming center. It doesn't need to be the Chick-fil-A's and McDonald's of the world, right?
Right.
One of the best first steps you can take is to contact a broker, contact a franchise consultant, so that you can actually have this array of opportunities that you can not only afford but also enjoy, because food might not necessarily be something that you really enjoy. It just might be your assumption of franchising. And there's so many opportunities out there. I had a good friend in franchising, actually. She owns a closet company and a lighting company. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting, because the home concepts are definitely a male dominated world. And this female that I know had bought these two brands as a franchisee. And she's one of the very few females in franchising that owns these brands. And she said to me once, I might not know how to install lights. I might not be an electrician. I might not even have the courage to be an electrician. However, I love making a home beautiful. And so to see a family have new lighting in their home that made it beautiful and see them happy with our services, that brought me joy as a franchisee. And I thought that was such a unique outlook on it, because
Mhm.
also love making my home look beautiful. So how much fun would it be to have a home concept? And so I don't think our brains go that way naturally, but you can utilize consultant networks for no fee to help you understand and find opportunities that could bring you a lot of joy that you maybe wouldn't have thought of. So that's always my first piece of advice for people starting out. And my second piece of advice is to visit online places like Franchise Business Review or Entrepreneur Magazine's Franchise 500. And the reason for that is because, yeah, you can work with the consultant first, but secondly, instead of trying to find individual franchise development websites, if you go to the FBR, the Franchise Business Review website, you can actually get validation from brands that have gone through that process of surveying franchisees, being awarded top franchise awards for different sorts of satisfaction, years in business, marketing strategies, etc. And you can actually scroll and spend time on your cell phone or your tablet, understanding these brands from a very high level, all in one condensed place. And so if you can utilize those networks like FBR or Entrepreneur Magazine, you have this platter of opportunities right in front of you, and you don't have to search for it. So there's really great websites out there in addition to our consultant networks that can offer a lot of very high level information on franchises to get started.
I mean, I'm just floored because you took every word that could possibly come out of my mouth. Well, I mean, I can talk till I'm blue in the face about the importance of understanding your transferable skills. It's something that I say all the time. So it's refreshing to hear someone else say it and put it in a different way, because sometimes you hear something a little bit differently, even though you might be saying the same thing, and it just like that light bulb comes up. So I thought that that was great. The fact that you mentioned FBR, franchise entrepreneur. I mean, these are companies that I've actually worked with and had brought them onto my webinars as well, and spoke about for as resources and things of that nature, and how important it is to also do your own research, and that's going to basically help you. So even if you're working with me, which is one of the greatest tips that you have shared. But in addition to, I always let them know that there are resources that are available, and that these are the things they should be doing as well, to feel, yeah, as you said, to make sure that they are doing their own due diligence, and it just really solidify the path that they're on. So that was great, Ali. This has been great. I'm so glad of the information that we were able to put out there today. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, guys, thank you for stopping by. So again, this is Franchise Vibes, where we discuss everything in the franchise industry and everything in between. And yeah, see you in the next video. Thank you.